Hey, that was quick. This Life in Tech, episode 101. I'm Jason.
And I'm Dan.
Oh, man. How's your New Year so far? Yeah.
So, how's life down there in North Carolina?
It's sunny for now, but I guess it's supposed to snow next week. I'm not sure, man.
I'm sorry, the northern territory of the Carolinas.
Yeah, man. It was a beautiful day yesterday. I think it's going to be another beautiful day today.
Yeah, it's been pretty nice here recently. Not too cold, which I'm shocked. I got the snow tires put on the Lexus, and I haven't even needed them. I don't even know why I put them on there, because I've got the Subaru. Because It's not like my boy is ever going to go and get his driver's license, I think.
Is he still not done it?
There's like zero desire. Wait till he does that 2.5 hour. Well, I'm sorry. A 2.5 hour drive that turns into a 4 hour bus trip one way for when he goes to do his guard duty. Yeah.
Look, man, there's a lot of good public transportation around the country, or around the world, let's say, right? But you got to understand what you're getting yourself into, particularly in the States on a bus. That's a whole nother level.
There's just no, there's no other way to get there.
Right.
I mean, good luck. That's all I got to say.
I guess you could make friends with an Uber driver.
You could. Or
I asked an Uber driver one time. He was taking me to LAX when I lived in California. I was asking him if he would ever take somebody to Vegas and back. And he said he would, because of course he gets paid for it, right? But what we couldn't figure out is if and how state laws would apply, because there's laws from state to state regarding driving somebody and all that jazz, and whether or not it can be constituted as kidnapping. I don't know.
I'm not sure it can be constituted as kidnapping because you requested the service.
Right. Well, and what if halfway through, because there's nothing but rock, you're like, dude, I can't pay for this. I want out. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I guess he could do that, but
well, it's in the same state, at least in this case, where he would do his guard duty. But it's
right.
2 to 2.5 hours, and it's a boring drive. Like, it's not. There's nothing there. It's all like back roads basically to get there. There's no highway.
Right.
And like, at least for half of the drive, there's no cell reception. Which, that part I'm fine with if he's going to be driving at some point, because I don't have to worry about it being on the phone, right? But don't move off your, like, as long as you're good, there's enough of a signal for GPS to work.
Right.
That's about it. So I started posting my goals.
Yeah, I saw that, man. They look good.
I need to update because I've read quite a bit. And then I've just been posting different blurbs from some of the books that are out there.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I never thought about it this way, but we've talked about this off and on. The amount of time we just spend thinking. And talking with a lot of the people that work for me, I found out that they don't do this. A couple do. And now I'm like, wow, then this is why it seems like, or at least to them, that, why are you always 4 steps ahead?
Right, exactly.
I spend a lot of time thinking.
Well, I also think there's a fundamental difference, or I should say there can be a fundamental difference. Sorry, I had to clean my glasses, man. Between how you structure your goals and whether you're identifying failure or not. That's something, as I've been working out my 2019 plan, let's call it, that I've never really done before, but I was very conscious to do this time, is spell out in detail what would constitute a failure, rather than letting it be imagined or be defined in the moment, right? And so that way, the failure can be put behind me, not in front of me. Because why do you want to go towards failure? You want failure behind you so that it motivates you to go forward. You know what I mean? But that
Yeah.
takes a lot of thought, dude. That takes a lot of deconstruction, reconstruction, abstraction.
Well, people don't want to generally think about failure, which I think is, uh, and it's a mistake. They don't understand that failure is not bad.
Right.
Failure is you figured out something that's just not going to work, and maybe it doesn't work for you. Um, I had this argument with some people the other day at work as well, in terms of why you should not worry about any of your employees' weaknesses. It's it makes no difference whatsoever. That's what a manager does. A manager brings up things about what you're not good at.
Mm-hmm.
A leader manages around your weaknesses, because your weakness is always going to be your weakness. There's no reason to even devote any time into really trying to improve it. It's always going to be your weakness, because you will get more out of spending more time developing your strengths.
Yeah. Well, you and I've talked about that in the context of like entrepreneurship. If
Yeah.
I'm going to sit down and try to imagine a product I could create, why do you want to add a learning curve on top of that? You got to play to your strengths. So, I would naturally create something technology related, but I don't know that I would go out even oh, by the way, timeout. I got to back up. I got all my seeds for the garden the other day, except for my strawberries and my potatoes.
Well, what's going to be in your garden?
Oh shit, man. Dude, I bought almost $50 worth of seed.
I don't know how much seed that is.
Seed
I'm not as handy with the gardening as you are now, turning into a farmer. Though, so everyone knows, this is why Nostradamus is on it. I told everyone, Jason's going to move to North Carolina, and he's going to become a farmer, and he's going to have chickens. He's going to have everything all the time. Even the ninja over here is like, dude, he's crazy. You listen to any of this shit this dude talks? That's not going to happen. How many years you been now in North Carolina?
Oh, like 8 months.
Nostradamus.
So my point is, to take a time out and bring that up, is, man, dude, a garden this size takes a lot of planning. Because you have to know what you want to grow ahead of time, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously. You got to get the seeds and figure out where you're getting them from. Some you buy, some you can reap yourself, whatever. Then you got to figure out what plants go with each other. And then you got to figure out what's that?
What do you mean by that? Like, so they take different nutrients from the soil, and so they can be planted next to one another? Okay.
That's part of it. Part of it is, a bigger part of it is, some are like vine growing and some are bushes, and you can't put bushes next to vines because the vines will strangle them. Well, like a squash growing a vine, right? Like,
okay,
squash, watermelon, pumpkin, so forth and so on, right? They spread out. So not only do you have to have a lot of room for them, but I can't put them next to the bush peas. So like green beans are long, right? But they grow in a little short bush. If that vine gets on that bush from the squash, it'll choke it.
Interesting.
Like, yeah. And there's all this pre-planning that has to go into it. And then you get into, okay, so what seeds, like, do I have to start growing right now? So I've had to build grow boxes to put inside so I can start growing the onions, because they got to start growing now. They take too long. If you wait until March or April, you'll never get any onions.
Interesting. So, all right, $50 worth of seeds is going to be like, how much square footage of farm is that going to be for you?
Probably more than 1,000 feet, because I'm not going to use all the seeds for all the plants.
1,000 square feet, or?
Yes.
Oh shit, dude, that's a lot.
Yeah. So put it this way: when you start, because
floor of a house. Like,
yeah, man, yeah. There's all this beautiful science around like yields. So I was able to pre-compute, based on how many seeds I plant and how long my rows are, how much yield on average I'll get out of that row. So basically the way it works, you take a plant like beans, right? Green beans. About 5 feet of a row roughly will feed one person.
For how long?
The summer.
The whole summer. Okay.
The entire summer. Because, of course, you sow and reap and harvest multiple times. That's why you got to start growing some things now because they take too long. Anyway, well, I settled on 25-foot rows. So that's 5 sections, let's say it, but there's only 3 of us. So not only do you have enough left over to can for the winter and spring, but given my calculations, there should be more than enough to give away and sell. But
yeah, if you want. Yeah.
Right, one 25-foot section of beans will produce somewhere between 75 and 150 pounds.
So
per harvest. Harvest.
Got it. Now, who's going to do all the picking of these things? Let me see your hands again. That shit ain't happening.
Of course it is. Who else is going to do it?
So how long will it take to actually, get the beans and if you're going to harvest this stuff? We're talking 1,000 square feet. You're doing this multiple times during the season. How many times do you have to go out there and do it?
Depends on the plant. Let's say on average 2 to 3 times.
What are you going to do to keep other animals from getting to it?
All right, great question. Because you can use other plants to help against insects. I'm not too worried about insects. What I'm more worried about are we have a lot of deer around here.
Yeah.
Like
insects, go buy a ton of praying mantis eggs.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can also do that. You can buy other predatory insects and put them in the garden.
Yep.
You can also plant flowers that will attract them. Well, really, it's attracting the predators because those flowers attract their prey. Yeah. That's the way it kind of works. Yeah. It's the deer that I'm more concerned about, to be honest with you, because there's been multiple times I can look out my office window, and in the giant tobacco field, I'll see a group of deer running around. Like it ain't uncommon.
Deer away.
What's that?
What are you going to do to keep the deer away?
Yeah, that's the bigger problem. I don't know yet. Shoot them.
You're not out there 24/7.
Well, I don't know, man. Maybe this is where you apply technology to it.
You probably could. You could probably get this is like what I said about in terms of the wall being built. Laser, someone breaks the plane, drones it out. You follow them until Border Patrol can pick them up. You can do the same thing. A deer crosses a line, bam, a light comes on and a sound that will probably scare them away.
That's more what I've been looking at, because birds too. Of course, there's a lot of birds, and birds will come down, especially like the tall pole growing stuff.
Yeah.
Like I have some beans that are pole beans, so they're green beans, but they grow up a pole.
Okay.
Corn and shit like that, man. The crows will come down and eat the hell out of it. So you got to use things like scarecrows. But here's the thing people don't understand about scarecrows. You can't leave it in the same place the whole time because the birds ain't dumb. They'll be like, that thing's been in the same place for a month. It ain't real. And they'll just come and sit on it.
True.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of science, obviously, around this.
Yeah. Interesting.
Now, with the deer, just so you know, and I looked into this, because almost all this land around me is zoned for USDA farming. If you have a species eating your crop, you don't require a license and a tag to shoot it. You can just blast it.
Well, you're on your own private land. I didn't think you needed to at an 8 point anyway.
You need tags. You don't need a license. If you're on your own land hunting, at least here in North Carolina, as I understand it, you need tags, but you don't, and that's so they can track the population more or not, right? And limit culling.
Okay.
But if you have a farm that's zoned for that, which all this land is around me, including I think my land is too. If they're eating your crop, you can just blast them.
That would require you to get a gun.
It would at minimum require me to delegate that work to other people.
True. But I think you wouldn't have to. I think you could literally set up the motion detection, sound, light. That would be enough, I bet you, to scare them away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it'll startle them.
And I think that's the safer option, to be honest with you, too. Long term.
Yeah.
Long term. So we'll see, man. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. But look, dude, I mean, we eat a lot of vegetables like you guys do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So out of 40, $50 worth of seed, I can get a year to a year and a half worth of food. Plus, right? There's going to be more than enough to give away and sell if we want to.
Well, I don't know that I would sell, right? I mean, not at least not for quite a while, because the idea is maybe you won't use all that up during the winter to the spring. You start building up a stockpile to where, in the event that for whatever reason power's out for quite a while. I mean, we all know that our electrical grid is ancient.
Yeah.
People wonder, well, how can the United States be like? Well, because we built on top of it, right? All these other countries that got it later were able to learn from the mistakes and get out there. We have to fix the grid without losing power to the population that's got a supply. That's a difficult problem to solve.
That's right.
It's going to happen. I mean, I remember at least twice where in Maryland, we were without power for over a week because of something happening, right?
Yeah, and the infrastructure is so old. I mean, they can't really fix it. You end up with all these bypasses and Band-Aids.
Right. So, getting it, I mean, so then you have to calculate how long do you really believe we'll be without power?
Right.
Well, I believe probably the longest we would ever be with truly out power is probably a month. So how many years will it take you to supply yourself with enough water and food to go a month?
Right.
And then after I get to that capacity, then you start selling your oldest stuff first.
Yeah. See, my immediate problem is canning vegetables and fruit is a whole nother ball game, man. A whole nother ball game. And there's specific ways to do it. There's specific equipment to do it, which we have. Because I don't know if you know this. I don't remember if we had any when you were over. Marcia has always made her own salsa since I've known her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she makes enough periodically to can it. But still, you got to store that shit somewhere, right? I'm anticipating having more than I can can and store, just given the yield. But I don't know what the yield is going to be like, man. I mean, dude, we could get no rain, which isn't likely here, but it could happen, and nothing grows. Or I could get a ton of rain, super high humidity, lots of lightning, because that'll make the flowers bloom faster at night. And I could get tons. I mean, think about that, dude. 150 pounds max, and roughly max, of green beans per harvest. And there's probably going to be 2 or 3 harvests. So you're talking 300 to 450 pounds of green beans, son. That's a lot of green beans.
It is. It is. Yeah, I don't think the canning, I mean, depending on how you're going to can, like if you're going to can like a pickling like thing, that's not difficult at all. Because then you just basically get all the cans and stuff hot, and the lids are going to pop, seal tight.
Right.
But if you want to can without that I have no idea.
That ain't my ball game, man. My ball game is to figure out the plan, come up with the milestones, make the list of seeds, when to plant them, build the grow boxes, and get it started. And I'll help take care of it. I'm not taking care. What's that?
Mrs. Pittman's the one that grew up on a farm. She should know all these things.
Well, our aunt that lives across the tobacco field is a big canner. So I'll enlist her help. But at the same time, man, going back to defining goals and whatnot, we've been very careful to define what failure is going to look like. Because obviously, $50, I'm probably going to spend maybe another 150 to 200 to get all of the stuff. The stuff being like the stakes, the wood for the chicken coop, building the scarecrow, all that stuff. So let's say I'm in for under 500. That ain't too bad, right? That ain't counting all the labor, man, because it's labor intensive.
Sure, but you're learning something through that time. So you're taking the value of what the learning is. You decrease that regardless from that. So let's take your labor out of it for a moment. I would say, at least in my mind, that if you can't produce, at least for this first year, $200 worth of food, Anything less than that becomes a failure in my mind.
Right.
For this first season. Next year, I would say, going into year 2, you better at least break even. In year 3, you should have a surplus.
Yeah, well,
I would look at it.
There's also things too, and this is where you have to have the forethinking that you were talking about. We want strawberries because the girls really like strawberries. I particularly don't, and I never have. Strawberries won't grow for 2 years. You have to put all the labor in now, and you ain't going to get any strawberries out of it until next year, guaranteed, minimum. And that's because of the way you have to grow them. And there's other plants like that.
Same thing with other berries like that, like raspberries.
No, not with them too much. The problem with strawberries, as I understand it, man, is because they're another ground vine kind of bushy growing thing. They're also the roots are very sensitive. So you gotta, all right. So when you have a plant, like any of these plants around me, right? Or like a bonsai tree, you understand the concept of. When you prune it and make it short, it diverts the energy in the plant so that it develops a stronger root system. And that's what you need with strawberries because they're very sensitive to soil and water.
Mm.
And so for the first year, as you let them grow, you have to continually essentially pluck them so that they don't produce berries, so that all that energy goes into the root development. And then once you get a good root development, because they stay in the ground, you leave them there over the winter. You have to protect them. You have to cover them with something. The next year, they should have a good, strong root system. They'll be able to draw enough nutrients to produce nice big berries. See, because here's the thing, same thing with watermelon. Although watermelon you don't have to do the year thing with, you do have to pluck them and prune them because if you have too many melons, they'll be small. If you want a big melon, you can only have so many of them because it takes so much energy for the plant to grow those things.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, man, I've always been fascinated by botany. It was one of my favorite science classes in undergrad. And getting out and obviously doing something as a family with the earth is appealing because you get outside.
Oh, speaking of that, did you hear about your vote?
Oh yes, I did, man. I wasn't going to bring it up yet, but I might as well. Unless something changes, I should be. Let's see. Let me look at the calendar to double confirm. What is today? Today's the 6th.
Yep.
A couple weeks from now, I should be initiated. They wanted me to come in the 31st.
All right. Right on.
Yeah. So again, man, it's just putting yourself out there, and yeah, man, it's scary to approach the unknown. But if nobody ever went into the unknown, we wouldn't really get anywhere, would we? It's kind of the way I think about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's I think the more and more we try to expand upon the things that we've never tried before. I mean, you might find that you hate it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that means if you hate it, you're not going to be good at it. So,
right.
I mean, there's a big piece of that. And it might be something that, Mrs. Pittman is going to have to wind up picking up. You don't mind doing the labor part, but you're not going to get out there on a daily basis and pick this stuff. Which is also valuable. I think there are a lot of people, their fear of failure or their fear of trying something because it's going to be hard. I can't tell you how many times at work when I tell someone what it is that I'm looking for, we're like, yeah, but that's going to be hard. Yeah, because if it was easy, I would just do it myself. That's why I've got 80 some people here. This is what needs to be done. I'm not expecting it to be easy. If it were easy, then I would go to the junior level people. This is why I've got senior level people here.
Right. Well, and embrace challenge. And okay, so maybe you fail. But like you said earlier, failure is not bad. Failure isn't something to run away from. In fact, I would argue that it's the exact opposite. You should run towards failure.
Yeah. Fail fast.
Right.
Because then you can course correct. Mm-hmm. Why did this fail? Go through the process, try again. I mean, it's a journey. And I think too many people forget to embrace the journey, embrace the suck. And what comes out as a result. I mean, think about how many years it probably took people to figure out what would happen if I started pruning these strawberry bushes.
Yeah, right.
People have figured it out. Learn from the failures of the past.
Exactly, man. And so how do you access that stuff? You have to think and you have to read. I mean, I got a farmer's almanac, and I love it. I mean, not only is it just interesting to read through because it has cool little stories and stuff in it, but dude, there's a lot of wisdom in there.
Sure, sure. I mean, that's a big thing. Is the I said so it's like as I was talking to some people, they were going, "Well, oh, you can go ahead and do bourbon in your house." No, you can't. You can only produce beer and wine. You have everything else is called moonshine. There's a reason, because it's not legal. You have to go somewhere, because the distilling process in itself is considered dangerous. And if you do it wrong, you're not producing something that's drinkable. You're producing something that'll kill you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right.
So what I got to figure out is there's places around here that actually produce whiskey. Could I rent their place, or basically say, look, here, I'm going to buy all the grain.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the barrel. This is what I want to produce. Will they do that, and how much will they charge?
Yeah, like a whiskey incubator.
Yeah, because we have that. Because I don't know how often are they producing whiskey all the time? I don't know.
Right, but clearly you've done your homework insofar as you figured out what the criteria are to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I might come back at the end of the year and be like, it's not legally, or it is too cost prohibitive for me to try to do this now. Because in order for me to rent this place for the however long it is, it's $1,000. Well, $1,000 for me to produce this right now, I could buy much more than a barrel worth of bourbon,
right,
for $1,000. Now, it would have to probably be a lot more, but the whole idea in this is, I want to see what my mash would wind up yielding, and it's going to be the challenging part is what people don't understand. Maybe a lot of people don't know. In order to be considered bourbon, it has to be in the barrel for 2 years minimum. The longer you keep it in the barrel, the flavor changes. So how do you just siphon off a little bit at a time? I mean, one barrel is about 50 gallons.
Right.
So I don't know how many off the top of my head in terms of bottles of bourbon that produces, but for five gallons of beer is roughly 2.5 cases. So 50 gallons.
Right. Is an order of magnitude more.
Right. So then it's like, where do you store it? And people worry about, well, what about the changes in temperature? Well, the changes in temperature have always happened.
Right.
The idea is that you have to also rotate the barrel a period of time.
Yeah.
Well, how am I going to do that? 50 gallons. I can't even imagine how much that weighs at the moment.
It's heavy. I mean, 50 gallons of liquid isn't the same thing as 50 gallons of something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's 50 gallons, and the how heavy is the barrel? I don't know.
Well, it's wood, yeah.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna be light, man. I tell you that.
No. So I'll have to figure that part out. It'll be interesting. I just want to, again, this is, I have an idea as to what my mash would wind up being like. And I'm going for real smooth. So there will be, I'll have a little bit of rye in there, but it's a very, very low rye. And I'll do some at 2 years. I'll pull some out at 5, and then I'll probably just do 2, 5, and 7 with my barrel.
I think it's a good plan.
I might even just pull some out after a year, a bottle's worth, just to see what it's like,
right?
And do it over time.
Don't know. It tastes like moonshine, man.
Well, moonshine they drink pretty quickly.
Yeah.
They don't. I don't even think. Yeah, I know. You remember Stoney? He always like, this is some good moonshine. I'm like, you all are absolutely insane.
It's horrible.
I don't even think they put it in a barrel. They do it in their bathtub. I don't know.
Yeah, basically, man, it goes into jugs, and you just distribute the jugs. It doesn't sit around and age.
Yeah, and it's just not. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. But I've got a number of different things that I want to try with that 50 gallons. But I mean, again, that's 7 years. And I would say, all right, this is the 7 year done. Who knows? I have no idea.
Right.
7 years from now, dude, I'll be 50.
And it'll be 2026.
Yeah.
How crazy is that, man? We're a year away from 2020.
Yeah. It's a great type of leap year too.
Yeah.
Not only is it divisible by 4, it's divisible by 5, but it's divisible by 20.
That's right.
There's some different, one of the things Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about in terms of the years for like numerology, in terms of like how special certain numbers are, as the more divisible these leap years are. It's pretty interesting. And so 2020, the amount of things it's divisible by is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty significant.
Yeah. So,
well, and I always remember being a kid and like the concept of the 20s. I guess maybe anything after 2005 or something like that. It kind of seems arbitrary, but yeah, always seemed like that was the future to me.
Oh yeah.
Like, whatever future is defined by. For me, growing up, it was always this concept of going towards 2020, and now it's here, and you're like, man.
What? And now what? Right. Mm-hmm. So for me, like, I was born in 75, so 25 years was 2000.
Mm-hmm.
As you keep going up, I'm like, this is. When you're 10 years old, imagining 15 years into the future, you don't have enough of a experience to understand what that means. Right. Now I wonder, I'm like, how, I would have, it's almost impossible based on today's science for me to see 2100, because I would be 125 years old.
Right.
Based on certain, we'll say, religions that are out there, that the maximum the human body is able to live is 120 years without science being involved.
Right.
And that's why in certain Indian culture, like 60 is a big birthday, because that's half of your life.
Right. Right.
So
I don't know, man. It's going to be exciting times. Well, we'll see if the government can get unshut down.
That stuff doesn't even faze me.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is because there's a phenomenal amount of research that's probably ruined now.
Is it?
Well, sure, man. Those people can't go into their labs and work on their projects.
Well, it doesn't mean it's ruined.
Well, yeah, it does, because nobody's in there feeding, like, for instance, the mice or the rats. They're gonna fucking die.
Maybe. Right now, they're equally alive and equally dead. No one knows.
That's true. I mean, you can make a reasonable assumption that, what are we on, almost a month now?
It'll be 3 weeks. But what we don't know is this is the part that we just don't have the insider knowledge. We don't know what's considered essential, and we don't know whether or not there are people in there that are saying, okay, there are these things, and you've been deemed essential to go in and feed the animals. We don't know that. We don't know all the pieces that are a part of the puzzle.
I can tell you at least some labs don't have access to the animals for certain.
Well, maybe the researchers don't.
Nobody does. There's nobody there. Gone.
Well,
nobody. Not all. I'm not talking about all of them,
yeah,
of course. But I've talked to people that work at some labs, and there's nobody there taking care of their plants, their animals, their cell lines. It's all gone. There's people. And the reason I found this out, just for clarity, is I belong to a couple groups of researchers that are doctoral researchers. So they're working on their doctorate.
Right.
And they're fucked. They're completely screwed. They're either going to have to get some kind of extension to extend the timeline for finishing the degree, or start over, or just give up on it or something, because they just got hosed.
Wow. Well, this is why, and actually, this is something that came up recently, where I was going with this. I used to think a whole lot of Ted Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little bit more respect for him now, because he actually introduced a bill that will put term limits on all of Congress.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that too, and part of me maybe was a little cynical and thought, okay, the campaigning's starting already.
Even if that's what it is, I don't necessarily care if that's his reasoning or not. The mere fact of putting it out there, now maybe other people might go, well, why aren't there term limits? Why are there term limits for the president, which happened later, right? You needed a constitutional amendment to put the term limit on the president. Our last constitutional amendment happened in 1992. So why don't we have it for the rest of Congress? If we put it on the president, why not Congress? And maybe it'll get people thinking, because it would still have to be ratified by the states as well.
Right.
I think, you're gonna find out the ones that oppose it. Why?
Exactly. Well, and I agree with you, man. For that reason and that reason only, I think it's a good idea. Getting it said and putting it into the public zeitgeist is probably, at this point, more beneficial than actually doing it. You see the same thing. Here's an analogy with marijuana laws.
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, it was he put in 3 term. You could do 3 terms. So basically, you could span at least one and a half president's terms.
Right.
So potentially, because in the Senate it's 6 years. So he was looking at doing 2. It was either 2 or 3 6-year terms. I think it was 2. I don't remember, but anyway, I thought it was at least a good idea because at a minimum, because let's say it is the political aspect that he's doing it for. Anyone that opposes it, now you're going, oh well, you just want to keep staying in office. Why?
Right.
It literally spin that, so anyone going against it would be difficult for them to spin out of, because that's kind of, at least in my mind, and I've said this several times, the problem isn't so much the president as it is Congress.
Yeah.
Because if they don't ever fear having to go back to their constituents and look them in the eye about all their bad choices they made, then they can keep doing whatever they want, because all they have to do is stay in office.
Well, right. They're free to serve their own best interest, which is exactly what's happened. I mean, and I'm not going to begrudge them for that. It's natural for humans to want to seek that out.
Yeah.
But that was the whole idea of why you were representing a group, is you're beholden to that group. You know what I mean? And clearly that's not true anymore. Clearly.
Oh, yeah. We passed that a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I at least have some respect, even if it was just for a political motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Then I still have the respect for him, because I didn't think he was that bright to come up with that kind of an idea. So at a minimum, I had changed my opinion of him no matter what. He's smarter than what I thought, or he's doing something that I believe to be of value to this country. If we want to continue progressing in this country, then we have to have term limits on all of those that can impact our lives. And I would even go so far as to say I would want to see that for the Supreme Court as well. Maybe a longer term limit, but I would say maybe for the Supreme Court, what's a generation? 20 years?
I don't know how it's defined now.
Yeah.
That seems
let's just say maybe the Supreme Court, you can't serve more than 20 years. 20 years, and then that's it. I mean, that's the way I would look at it. If you're saying the people in Congress, or at least your senators, can't do more than 12 years, then maybe the Supreme Court's 20. I don't know.
I'm sure there's a straightforward way to analyze what would be the best number.
Yeah. So, regardless, I have some more respect for Ted Cruz. I think it'll be better for the country. I think you'll find out as to who winds up, if that bill even makes it to the floor.
Yeah, I would. If I was a betting man, I would bet it doesn't this time. But it's going to tell you a lot. I agree.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, because he actually has a couple of Republicans and Democrats that are on this. So, pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of progress are you making on your other goals so far?
So far, so good, man. Yesterday was kind of a bust because I'm not feeling too good. But I'm feeling better today, so I'll probably get back on some things. The new semester starts on Monday, but I'm all prepared for that.
Oh yeah, so you had some stuff at with the school meetings this past week, right?
What do you mean?
The administration staff was back at the university.
Oh yeah, they came back on what was it, the second? I
Okay.
guess.
I just need to know because I have an email that I need to send now.
Yeah. I think on campus faculty were required to be on campus too.
Interesting. All right.
I don't know. It's this weird situation, and nobody's explained why. And I've asked, and nobody answers it. But even like, well, I'll put it to you this way: it's actually simpler to put. There's no more breaks ever. Any holiday, any spring break, any whatever, it's gone. Now they're called recesses, and they're supposed to be asynchronous reading weeks or days. There's no more days off ever.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why they're switching to this. I don't know what they're trying to achieve. I can only make guesses, but it's strange.
Yeah. Well, I know we're getting close to our end of our time for this session, but I just got to bring up. See the Mayweather fight?
Oh my god, dude! Yeah, wow. Listen, I've had more real fights with my daughter and I having Barbie wrestling, where she grabs a Barbie and I get a Barbie, and then we make them wrestle and fight and stuff. I think that's a more legitimate real fight than what the fuck I saw.
Well, first off, what was funny to me is I didn't even realize they were fighting because I thought this stuff was, he said he's not doing it, right? All of a sudden, he shows up. He clearly didn't look in shape, but what was funnier is I've seen better acting with inside the WWE than I did with that cat acting like he got hit.
They clearly didn't rehearse. Now, just so I'll make a point for myself. I don't know if anybody really has looked into this, but Japan is well known for putting the fix in multiple sports that are like their national sports. So like even sumo, for instance.
Yes, sure.
And certainly we know back in the Pride days of MMA in Japan, I don't know if it was necessarily because the Yakuza was involved, which isn't conjecture they were, which is why Pride folded, or if it was just the nature of Japanese culture and that's how they do it. I don't know. But the fix has been put in before and it's well known. If you look at most of like Bob Sapp's fights, for instance.
Oh yeah, sure.
But in this case, man, dude. But see, the thing is I stand back and I ask myself, for what purpose? Like,
I don't know. I have no idea. It's bizarre to me. Probably just as bizarre as John Jones' fight getting moved from Vegas to California at the last minute.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that to me is, okay, so you have these metabolites that are still hanging around. Well, how come all the other people that got popped for doing steroids, they didn't test for those metabolites still being in their blood later on for this long?
Well, the crazy thing, and not a lot of people have talked about this, I think Chael Sonnen did. What happens when he tests positive now, like after the fight or after his next fight?
Well, he should still, according to what they're saying, those same metabolites, this, what do they call it, pulsing effect or something like that, will still be in your system for some time. Well, what's some time? It's been a year.
Well, see, here's what I don't understand, particularly with this concept of pulsing. And I haven't read all the literature around it, but I've read a little bit. Part of the argument, and the UFC is making this argument, because Jeff Nowitzki is their USADA guy, who, by the way, is the same dude that busted Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
But was he an IRS agent when he did that? He was a federal agent when he did that. One on the Joe Rogan podcast and was talking about this bullshit. And nobody's asked him this question, which is the question I would ask. If the pulsing effect is being observed because of the granularity of the instrumentation, then why don't you back off the power of the instrumentation? So if I can, let's say, for rough terms, to make an analogy, if 100 times magnification, I can see what I want to see to know whether you've taken something you shouldn't, why do I need to go to 1,000 times magnification?
Sure.
Like, why? And that's what's not clear to me. It's clear to me that the technology has improved because so is the doping. And more importantly, the ways to mask doping have improved. So I understand why the instrumentation is gearing up. This is why a lot of sports, especially in Europe, move to blood passports. So they can take your old blood and put the new test against it and see if you were doping, up to 10 years ago, let's say. But if you know this pulsing effect is there and you're not going to punish somebody for a pulsative detection, then why are you detecting it at that level of granularity? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, because we know that at least the possibilities exist, especially if you live in Mexico and you're eating beef, that you're going to wind up having tested positive because of the amount of steroids you're putting in the beef, right? So, but how much? So they need to come up with a particular level that says if you have gone this to past this point, there is no doubt you intentionally put something synthetic into your body, right? Not through consuming other food, not through some tainted supplement, which can happen. Not saying that it can't, but there is a certain point to where you cross that line, you're done because you had to do so much. Because all these people at this particular level, they are testing their supplements. And so if you take every time you open a new thing and you take a sample of it and you go and get it tested before you start ingesting it and it tests pop, then don't do that supplement. I mean, that to me seems to be relatively logical. But then again, I haven't been hit in the head as many times as some of these other people.
Right. Well, look, man, you're right. And so there are ranges of values that are acceptable and unacceptable. And those are well defined.
Yeah.
The problem is the science around how to mask what you've taken is so advanced that they have to get really granular with those ranges. And so, but then let's assume the truth is that he is having these pulsative detections and that he actually hasn't taken anything. Let's assume that's true. So what do you do with that? I mean, clearly they chose to move the fight because he couldn't get licensed in Nevada. That's why they moved it. And they didn't punish him at all. So clearly they've already made the decision what they're going to do when this is true. Now what's interesting, and then you brought this up right off the bat. Here's what's interesting to me is how are they going to apply this to other people going forward? Because clearly they're not going to apply it retroactively because there's other people that have detected within the same picogram range for the same substance, and they fucking banned them.
Yeah, it is very intriguing as to how this is going to play out. And then of course, I love and I'm not really a big fan of DC. I just think he's a wrestler. I mean, it seems to be a good guy, but as a fighter, he doesn't interest me at all. But he does make a very valid point that he's been being tested for like 20 plus years and never once has anything come up. Right. How come this is like John Jones' third time?
Well, look, man, the simple fact of the matter is, because it is a great point, you don't test positive for stuff if you're not doing stuff. Really, honestly. That's the simple fact of the matter. They can blame it on supplements being tainted, which does happen. They can blame it on horse meat, which people have, or kangaroo meat, people have blamed it. The simple fact of the matter is, look, man, my whole life and for the foreseeable future will be based on two things being healthy: my mind and my hands. So you know what I do? For instance, when I cycle, I wear gloves and I wear a helmet.
Yeah.
You feel me, right?
Yeah.
I make sure my eyes get tested regularly, and then I have optimal configuration in my glasses. My point is that it's really up to you to be responsible for making sure that what you're doing is marching you towards success, not failure. And so the thing that's with John Jones is, and even DC has said this, he probably would win all these fights even if he wasn't all doped up. So why are you doping? It's like the Floyd Mayweather thing. If the Japanese really put the fix in, why did they put the fix in for him to win again? Like it doesn't make any sense.
Right, it doesn't, and that brings up, this is like, so Alex Rodriguez in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
He took all this stuff. He was already the best player in baseball. However, no one can provide you the edge because when the games were on the line, he choked. Doesn't matter how much steroids you're taking. However, this is the part with John Jones, which is just so amazing to me. This guy is not he doesn't choke. He lost one fight that was basically because of a low blow, and that the deaf guy, I can't remember his name now.
Matt Hamill.
Yeah. Didn't want to continue. So because of that, John Jones gets a loss. That's it. John Jones has not lost, and he, in my opinion, he basically had his way with Gustafsson this past time. I saw the fights on YouTube later, and I'm going. This clearly, because John Jones said he got hurt in the first fight and still won. This time he didn't get hurt, and he put it to him. No one has made DC look bad. John Jones has made him look bad twice.
Mm-hmm.
And DC has beaten everyone else other than John Jones. So I thought, like, if it was me, I would have, if I was DC, I would have done just like Connor did. You will take this belt out of my cold, dead hands. I have defended within this period of time, and I can go back down and defend. Why doesn't the UFC let them do that? I don't get it.
That's a really interesting point. Maybe we'll finalize on this, because now almost every champion is a dual weight class champion, including in the women's divisions.
Yeah. Amanda Nunes destroyed Cyborg.
Dude, that was glorious to watch. Glorious. She took a beating. And I'm not glorifying the beating part of it, but her boxing is so on point. And to take on somebody that was bigger and hasn't lost in 13 years or something like that, and just dismantle her, that was glorious to watch.
Yeah.
So what the hell is going on with the UFC, where now, even in some of these really deep divisions, you have all these people running around and winning 2 belts? I mean, who's going to be the first one with 3? Because it's going to escalate. That's normal human behavior.
3
why can't people just fight? What are you doing?
3 might be a challenge because the weight classes are so far apart. Whereas in boxing, it's like every 6 pounds or something like that, right? And this one's it's quite a bit different. So I don't know.
TJ Dillashaw is talking about fighting Max Holloway.
Yeah, I think. Well, true. He is talking about it. That's not going to go well for TJ Dillashaw.
It won't. But look, this is what Conor McGregor created.
Yeah.
Personally.
Oh yeah.
Is the need to continually escalate so that you increase sales.
True.
And that's what everybody's doing. They're just trying to increase their own marketability, and I don't begrudge them that.
Not one bit. But I don't understand why the UFC is saying no, you're not going to be able to defend. Like DC was basically going, you're going to strip me? You're going to give someone else an interim belt? What is this? Yeah. I defended this belt 6 months ago. Sign me up for a fight.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, man. It was one thing with Conor because he hadn't fought in so long because he went and had that Floyd fight.
Yeah.
But everybody else is active. I don't understand. And see, it's weird, man, because on one hand, you would think there should be more opportunities because there's so many more cards now than there used to be. Like, pretty much every weekend there's a fight. And yet it's almost like it's more diluted. You know what I mean?
Well, it is, because the quality of the fighters is not there. I mean, come on. People can say whatever. Ali Aquenta or whatever, he had no business being in the ring with Nurmagomedov.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Right. Well, because your top 10 or your top 15 is so stagnant, you can't have them fight all the time. And since you like the whole weight cutting thing, and there's so many more injuries now, you see what I'm saying? And that's what I mean by diluted. It's weird. It's really weird, man.
I'm shocked Nurmagomedov was able to show up to 2 fights in a row. That might be a streak.
Well, who knows when him and Conor are ever going to fight again, because they still haven't gone to Nevada for their hearing.
Yeah, they keep postponing. Because they're trying to work out deals on the back end.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with John Jones. Think about how much greater he could be if he actually didn't get suspended for 2 years at a time, like every other 2 years, and he was fighting the whole time. Because before his first time, man, he was fighting 4 times a year, which is a lot. Most dudes fight once, maybe twice. Especially
for that size. You would always see the lighter weight classes fighting more often because, the power's not there.
Right.
Right? Because you can say whatever you want. Conor McGregor hits hard for someone at 140 pounds. He doesn't want to go and get hit by like Tyrone Woodley. You can say whatever you want. He's not going to be able to stop that, or a John Jones, or an Anderson Silva.
Did you see that? Did you see that Khabib challenged John Jones?
No, I didn't see that. That's
Yeah.
crushed.
Yeah. Oh, I'd watch it. I mean, like on a replay somewhere.
Yeah, I that would be absolute insanity. There's a huge difference. It does not matter in today's thing. You're not going to see, even back in the day, Royce Gracie going up against someone that outweighs him by 200 pounds.
Right? You remember same UFC when Keith Hackney fought that giant Emmanuel Yarborough dude?
Yeah, yeah.
Fat sumo guy, and just was like karate chopping him in the head.
Yeah.
Think about how far the sport's come in 20 years, man.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Nurmagomedov, Conor McGregor. As much as I like Conor, he would get crushed by. I think Anderson Silva, even at this date, would still crush Conor McGregor at this age. There's just too much of a weight difference.
I'll tell you a fight I would watch though is GSP versus Conor.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Conor would win that one either.
I don't think he would. I don't, for a stretch of the imagination, think he would, but I'd watch it. I'd pay for it. Watch it.
Yeah, because here's the thing: GSP has the highest takedown percentage of all time against people who supposedly couldn't be taken down. He can take you down
and hold you there.
Yeah, because his jiu-jitsu is on point, his karate is on point. You know.
Well, I'll finish with this. You know why I would pay for it? Not because I necessarily think one or the other is going to win, or I actually like one or the other. It's because those are the two biggest names historically for the UFC and pay-per-view sales. So you know they're going to stack that card hard.
Oh yeah, it would.
That's why I would pay for it. It's really for all the other fights, because you know what's going to happen. GSP is going to take him down, hold him there, and beat him up.
Yeah. Or
and you know it's going to happen because Khabib, who is a smaller version of GSP, just did it to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is that GSP didn't do that to Michael Bisping. He didn't take him down. He stood up. People forget. GSP does have a stand up, but when he got to a point to where he didn't want to lose, so he's like, "Well, none of you can prevent me from taking you down. So I'm just going to take you down and keep winning. And I will just pound you until you make a mistake, and I'll submit you, or we're going to go 5 rounds of me ground and pound. Bottom line."
Well, people forget that he got really angry at Josh Koscheck. And so he jabbed him for like 5 rounds.
Yeah.
And he jabbed him so much that he broke his orbital bones.
Yeah.
Right? All the small bones around your eye orbit, smashed him. And then he kept jabbing him for another round.
Yep.
And he didn't have to. He just wanted to hurt the guy. People, I think people think George is like this really sweet, innocent, milquetoast kind of dude. That dude's dark.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
he's dark. I'd pay to watch it. Hell yeah. I don't think I would pay to watch Conor versus Anderson, and I don't think I would pay to watch GSP versus Anderson.
No, I would. I don't know. I might still go somewhere to watch Conor fight Anderson Silva, but I think that would be. I think it's a horrible fight. That doesn't do. It actually. It only helps Anderson. It does nothing for Conor's legacy.
No.
Conor needs to go back. If it were me, and I was advising him, I would tell him to drop back down the weight class and go beat back up Max Holloway again.
Mm-hmm.
Max can't stop Conor. Conor's too big for that division, but he's not quite big enough for the current one. Yeah,
he's kind of in between. And GSP's always been that way too.
Yeah. The difference is that when you're a wrestler, well, even though GSP was never a wrestler, he had to pick it up. You couldn't stop his takedown.
Right.
I mean, GSP beat the who's who in that division.
He beat everybody. I mean, he beat everybody.
Yeah. BJ Penn, he did beat Matt Serra, but who was Matt Hughes? Matt Hughes was dominant. GSP lost to him the first time and came back and beat him twice.
Mm-hmm.
So can't take anything away. But I think it would be interesting if they did put Conor versus GSP, but Conor doesn't win that fight.
I don't know how much longer the UFC can afford to wait around and try to make these big super fights. And this is another thing of what I meant by diluted. Their brand is diluted. You spread it so far, so thin. If guys get hurt or can't fight for 6 months, who's talking about your product? I mean, you and I kind of hinted at this several shows ago. Man, unless somebody big that I get excited about is fighting, I ain't talking about the UFC. Not outside of you and I on this podcast.
Right. That's true. They've put so many events on, and rather than which I don't have a problem with them putting events on, but don't make them all pay-per-view. Right? You need to develop talent, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe their deal with ESPN will help them to do that. But they're gonna, this whole aspect of like the Reebok sponsorship is a bad idea, because now you took away the fighters' ability to market themselves a little bit and to get them some sponsorship money, which will help their training. Reebok's not giving them anything. It was a horrible idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway. All right.
I guess that's 101 in the bag, man.
Yeah. Happy New Year to everyone.
Yep.
I guess we'll try and put out a schedule here at some point and see.
Yeah, we'll talk about what we want to do and get it set up.
Yeah. All right, my friend.
All right. Have a good day.
Peace.
Take care, everybody. Bye.